Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, a podcast where I have the pleasure of simplifying the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment too. I'm pretty damn excited here this morning. It's a beautiful morning as I'm recording this a Monday morning, and I just had a fantastic deep dive session with community influencer members where we were talking about new patients by Christmas and the three sorts of posts that they should be posting. And one of those I want to dive into great detail with you today. We're going to be talking all about connection posts. We're going to talk about the importance of having more people in your community like you. We're going to talk about how people make decisions as well. But before we do that, I want to separate branding. I want to talk a little bit about branding, okay? When we think about branding, we often think about logos and colors and website design and the fonts that we use. These are all really important elements that go into branding. And interestingly, whenever chiropractors are wanting to start their practice, this is often the first thing they're really obsessed about, and they shouldn't be because it's not the most important part of branding. There's another side to branding. That's all known as visual branding, okay? So they're all key elements of it. The other side to branding is sometimes just known as emotional branding. It's a lot of what we're going to talk about today, because if you get this right, the other side of your branding doesn't matter at all. I've seen chiropractors who nail this emotional side. Their websites are terrible, their colors are terrible, all those kind of things. But if we really be able to connect with them through their emotional branding, then the sky is absolutely the limit. This is about emotional connection with your audience. This is all about loyalty, advocacy, building deeper relationships as well. So every brand has a story. Most of us just haven't clarified it, or we don't share it enough. We've clarified it with ourselves. We know why we do what we do. We know what our values are. We know what our backstory is, but we just don't share it wide enough, or we shared it once and then we stopped sharing it. Our emotional story and our background story is something that we need to share all the time. I've been a big Tony Robbins fan now for, 48? So nearly 30 years I've been following Tony's stuff. And Tony tells stories, and there are stories in there that he's been telling for 30 years, goes over and again. There's his background branding stories, so we have context of where Tony comes from. And so repetition is one of the things that stops us sharing. Why are we a chiropractor? Why are we so damn passionate about this? Why do we do what we do? Whilst it's repetition for you, okay, there are many people on social media that are hearing it for the first time, practice members that are hearing it for the first time. And so we're able to create this sort of backstory and this type of emotional branding through what I call connection content, okay? I've often in the past, if you listen to the podcast, separated content into kind of two different categories: transformational content, which is to help our audience get a health goal, okay? And then connection content, which is all about building relationships. Now, interestingly, this morning in this morning's community influencer training, I broke that transformational content down into two different parts. We'll share that at another time, okay? Now, one of the great examples, and if you think about who you follow on social media, people that you really have an affinity with, you'll have a great understanding of what their emotional branding is. So Gary Vaynerchuk, somebody who I love and follow, I know a lot about Gary. I know that he came to America as a young child from kind of Eastern European background. From there, couldn't speak English. His family was really poor. Started off kind of working in a wine shop, struggled, business grew. He started Wine TV. He's obsessed with the New York Jets. He loves most sport as well. He's a big fan of kind of rap, modern culture, obsessed with baseball cards, likes to go to thrift shops even now looking for bargains. These are all things I know about Gary that I have learnt on social media that have nothing to do with his actual business venture, which is he's a multimedia company and he helps businesses grow. Yet I know all these things about Gary, and he's often posting about baseball cards. He's often posting about things that he finds. He's talking about sport, you name it, from there too. But these are all things that help to build an affinity because I feel like I know him. There's a relationship. I know what's important to him. And although not all those things are similar values to mine, I don't follow American football at all. I don't have an interest really in baseball, but I get to see the vulnerable side of his background. Now, this is important for a number of reasons, but first and foremost, we must understand this. Before your community will buy chiropractic, they need to buy you, okay? We're looking for most people, depending on what sort of chiropractor, if you're a transactional chiropractor where you want people to come in and just have their back adjusted and leave, then probably, they're looking for something different. But if you're wanting lifelong relationships, if you're wanting to be somebody's chiropractor for life and you want to build these sort of deeper relationships there, then they need to buy you. They're looking for a partner. They're looking for a guide. They're looking for, a trusted partner as well, okay? Now, if all you're doing on the socials is teaching people this transformational content there too, they'll see you as a teacher. Now, not that there's anything wrong with being a teacher. My folks are teachers. A lot of people in my family are teachers. And I love teachers, okay? I think they should be our highest paid, literally the highest paid people in our community should be teachers because nobody has a more important job. But we don't value teachers as a community. Most people don't think how I do. And if you're showing up like a teacher, you'll be valued like a teacher and you'll be paid like a teacher. If you want to be paid differently, then we have to show up differently as well. We have to tell the story of us. People have to get to know us. So, I was talking this morning about a community influencer member who I know really well. Now, he's been doing really great of recent on his socials by starting to create some transformational content. He's teaching great stuff. He's got a lovely delivery style. He's super natural with it. But what I know about this guy is he's also, a super keen surfer, rides motorbikes, goes on these epic kind of trips. He's just, likes to play kind of lawn bowls, great fam. And as I look through his socials, there's evidence of none of that. I wouldn't know any of these things about him. I'd think about another community influencer member and she's killing it with her socials. They're getting really great results there too. But I also know in a background that on the farm that they live, they've like dozens of different animals. She loves horses. She's out feeding the horses multiple times a day. But I miss this side of it. Now, I know all this about her, which is why I feel a real connection and affinity with her because I love animals too. But she's not sharing all of this other content with her community. And as a result of that, she's missing out on some of the key magnetic things that will draw more people to her. Now, we need to understand how people make decisions. You and I make decisions. Our practice members, potential practice members make decisions. And that is they make decisions emotionally first, and then they justify them logically. Okay. Now, we all do this as well. So it might be, hey, listen, I'm going to come and see you as a chiropractor because I've got headaches. And you just shot this great video on, different stretches that I can do that might help with my headaches there too. That might be the reason that I am justifying it. But underneath what it was is I saw some of your other content and I saw that we have same values. I got to see why you do what you do. I got to see that you have great family values like I do. Okay. We shared these same things. We're emotionally connected. And then logically, there was a reason why I decided to come in and see you. When we get really good at sharing this sort of our branding information, it differentiates us in the market because most chiropractors aren't doing this. And those that do it poorly. And there's a few of you out there who do it in an amazing way. And when you do it in an amazing way, it doesn't surprise me that you get the results that you do. So it will help you to stand out, not only in chiropractic and healthcare, but online as well. Not only will it help you with regards to attracting in new people as well, but it's important that we be sharing this type of content because it will enhance patient engagement. Remember, our social media platforms and our marketing in general is not just for new patients and new people in our community. It should be serving our existing patient base as well. This connection content will create higher engagement with them. They'll get to understand who you are outside of practice, and this will build a greater sense of affinity as well. It'll build a community in around your practice. Community is one of those things that you should be working to build, okay? This is shared people, shared values, shared experiences, and we do this by letting people know who we are. Now, again, like with anything, we can absolutely get too much of a good thing in the same way that if you're just teaching all the time, you get seen as a teacher. If you're just sharing this content all the time, you kind of get seen as a blogger. Okay, this is what bloggers do. They just share their life on there. And most bloggers really struggle as well to run a business. So we need to have the transformational content there. We need to know how to get that nailed. So we're teaching people how to be healthier and showing our expertise. And then along with that too, we need to be building connections. Now, one of the barriers that comes up with this all the time when I'm speaking with chiropractors about this is, what if I'm private and I don't want people to get to know me? Now, if you feel really, really strongly about this, then the answer is simple. social media is not for you. So sometimes, people will come and say to me, look, I really want to do social media, but I don't want to make videos, or, I don't want to share any content. I'm like, well, you can't. I don't have a magic wand that means that you can do social media, but not really do it. So if you are, for whatever reason, I'm going to talk about some because there are some false beliefs in here, but if you really don't want to share any of that information there, it just means social media is not a tool for you, okay? I grew my practice without there being social media, okay? Our business now is based a lot in around social media, and it's one of those things that we love to have there too, but maybe this is not for you. However, I often like to check in with this and ask people, why do you not want to share? And there's a couple of things that often come up in this, and sometimes what it is they think that other people won't be interested. I'm not going on fabulous trips. I don't have fancy cars. I don't have anything that's interesting at all. Now, there is a tendency for us when we view our own lives from this, because it's what we do every day. It seems a bit boring and mundane there, but that's not how it feels to other people. And I want you to watch your behavior when you're on social media next time, and watch what you're engaged with, what content. You'll see when other people are sharing their behind the scenes, the most basic and mundane of things, you're interested in it. We're voyeuristic as human beings. We like to see the behind the scenes there. And it doesn't mean that there needs to be kind of fireworks and emotion all the time. The simplest of things, this morning when I was out for a walk, there's a beautiful sunrise. I just took a selfie of it, posted that, beautiful sunrise. And this is the sort of thing that starts to help us build relationships. The other thing that people say is that I want to share my entire life. We don't have to share your entire life. I have things I don't share. There's not all areas of my life do I need to publicize. One, because it's complicated. Two, I don't have the time. And three, I can't be bothered. Okay. But there are certain aspects of my life that I do like to share. So at the moment, I do share lots of the things that I do with Sunny and Lauren there, and I'm renovating a house at the moment. I love it. It's who I am. I'm learning lots of great things from it. So I share lots of posts in around that. You get to decide what you share and what you don't want to share. Sometimes people say, well, I don't really want to share my family and I don't particularly want to share my children. Now, I understand this. Absolutely, there are issues that we need to think about with safety there. I go back and I tell you the story about Gary Vaynerchuk and all the things I know about Gary. I know Gary has kids and I know that he has a wife, but I don't know any of their names. I've never seen any photographs of them. So you definitely don't have to share pictures and photographs of your family, or none of that stuff has to be there. That's not essential. So, we're thinking of, one, if you don't want to share any of that, social media is not for you. If you think your life is not interesting, one of two things. It probably is. Or two, maybe you should start doing more interesting things there too. And it's not about having to share everything. And certainly you don't have to share your children. I can understand why you might not want to do that as well. And the final thing is that there is a level of vulnerability when we share this. Okay, like what kind of comments am I going to get back? And I want to remind you here, what we're doing here in essence, Robert Cialdini in his book Persuasion, Influence and Persuasion there too, talks about there being different kind of elements. And I did a whole podcast on this recently. One of the pillars is likability. Likability is an incredibly magnetic drive that is going to draw people towards you. And however, what is likable to one person is not likable to another. We're not going to be liked by everybody. And what we're wanting to be is liked by people who we want to be liked by, our ideal patients. That's why when we're choosing an ideal patient, an avatar, it's like, who do we share values with? So I don't want to have to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. I don't want to have to behave in a way. I don't have to pretend to, have interests. But who do we already have an affinity with? And that's who we want to be liked by, people who already share those sort of things there too. So hopefully you're convinced now on the idea of I need to start sharing some connection content. Let me give you some examples of what is connection content, and then we'll kind of wind all of this up as well. Share your personal story. Why did you become a chiropractor? And why are you so damn passionate about chiropractic? What motivates you on a daily basis? We need to know this. So, one of the people that does this best is Tony Ebel. He shares the story of Oliver all the time. Now, every time he shares it, and I've heard him share it multiple times there too, he still shares it with an incredible passion, even though, as I said, there must be dozens, if not hundreds of times that he's actually shared this too. I'm still fascinated by each time that I hear, because it helps explain to me why Tony is so passionate as well. So why do you do what you do? This is elements that we want to kind of, weave this into many of our conversations. A practical thing to do, which can be a fun one, is just a day in the life post. So maybe you could just start a little video from when you get up in the morning, getting organized, traveling to work, at work, pre-shift huddle, adjusting the patients, what you did at lunchtime. Maybe you went some exercise, grab some lunch, afternoon shift, trip home. Now, you could do that in one of two different ways. You could do that as like an Instagram or Facebook story, or you could shoot a little video and add it all together there. This is engaging sort of connection content behind the scenes of your practice. What goes on outside of the adjusting areas, team meetings, unpacking stock. And again, this connection content here, I need to touch on this point, is not just connection with you. It should be the staff at the practice, our CAs, our other practitioners, all should be a part of that. So, behind the scenes, if you're engaging in any type of community activities, so local events, causes, you should be engaging these sort of things. If you're committed to your community and you want to build community, you should engage in these things. But we should share these sorts of things because it helps as a reflection of your values. Now, again, it's not that you can't share educational content, but you want to share educational content maybe with a personal twist. So if you're sharing tips in around how to help with headaches, migraines, those type of things there too, maybe you want to share personal experiences, actual scenarios that you have been involved with yourself, maybe a problem that you had, maybe you had headaches once, or, talk about your challenges inside of those areas there too. So we can mix the two. It's not just either or. We actually want to be putting our emotional brand into all of our content. I'm going to talk about this in a moment with regards to, characters that we want to think about also. Q&A sessions and live content is a really great way where we can be teaching and providing value to patients, but we get to show personality because it's not pre-recorded. Okay, there are elements of a live video and Q&A sessions where we really get to see personality. Again, you might want to share, family and personal life. What are you doing on the weekend? Those type of things. There also, interactive content. Quizzes, polls, contests. Something that it has participation and engagement back and forwards. You want to be sharing your values and your beliefs. We can comment on, things that are happening nowadays that are current, and we can share our thoughts in around that too. Now, this is not about us having to be polarizing, but we want to get off the fence, choose one side of it and say, this is what we stand for. What are your hobbies, your interests, your passions? I mentioned beforehand, we're renovating a house. I often talk and share about that. I often talk about golf as well. This is kind of who I am. As I mentioned beforehand, this is not about just really separating connection content and transformational content. We want to look for characters that just regularly appear through these. So let me use Tony Ebel as an example again. So Tony's always wearing his T-shirts of Expect a Miracle. This is part of his branding that we see there. And it travels with him across to work, to home. God knows how many of these T-shirts he must have. I have a few of them because he and Christine were very generous and gave me a bunch of them in some trainings I put together for them. But we want to find these things there too. So, for me, I'm often drinking coffee. Okay. So I wear a hat a lot in these podcasts. So these are branding elements inside of here that you get to know me. So what are the 3 to 5 branding elements that you can have in your videos, in your content that match with you? Is it the place that you shoot your videos? Is it visually what you're wearing? Is it things that you often talk about? Okay, so let's bring all this back together again. Okay, the big idea is this. Before people can buy chiropractic, they need to buy you, the chiropractor. Now, particularly with social media, and the word is social in there, what people are wanting to do is build relationships. They're wanting an emotional connection. They're wanting more than just to be taught something. If you want to get the best results from social media, we need to be creating transformational content and connection content, because it's that connection content that will have you be likable as well, okay? If you're not seeing the results that you want with social media, then chances are you're missing one or both of these elements. So the next thing for you to move from here is watch how you're engaging on social media. Look for what content catches your interest and notice just how simple it is, okay? People sharing their lives and how nice it is to be a part of that and witness that. And the second thing for you to do is to start to share some of yours, clarify your personal stories. Maybe it's a day in the life post. What are your hobbies, your passions, your interests, and start to put it out there. Remember, you don't have to share everything. You get to choose what you share and what you don't share. The key here, I think, is being vulnerable and open to people and letting people get to know you. When you do this, you'll have a whole bunch more connection. When you have a whole bunch more connection, the phone will ring more. And when the phone rings more, we get to change more lives. Remember, folks, this is about changing the lives of the people in your community. All right, that's it for this episode. Until next time, thanks for all that you do. Keep saving lives. Your community needs you sharing more connection content. See you back here next week. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.